You ever get that where you want to tell someone exactly how much they mean to you, but you just can't find the words?
Oh, absolutely. It's like, where do I even start, right?
Yeah.
Expressing those deep emotions, it's definitely an art, isn't it?
Totally. And that's why we're diving into this collection of love quotes today. 100 heartfelt love quotes for her.
For her, yeah.
Exactly. So we're going to figure out, are these just cheesy lines, or can they actually help us build stronger connections?
Well, I was struck by something the source said called love quotes, these small, potent doses of emotional truth,
Mm.
which I thought was interesting. It's not just about hearing those words. It's also about like the courage it takes to say them.
It's that vulnerability, right?
Yeah. And even if you're borrowing the words, choosing a quote that resonates with you, it can open up these really amazing conversations.
Oh, totally. Like, hey, this is what speaks to me. What about you?
Exactly.
And it makes me think about, those 5 love languages.
Oh, yeah.
For some people, hearing those words of affirmation, that's huge. So a well-chosen quote, boom, direct hit.
It's true. Not everyone can just whip up a sonnet on the spot, right?
Right.
So these quotes are like, here, this is how I feel. I maybe wouldn't have said it this eloquently, but
But you found it.
yeah, exactly.
And I think there's something so powerful about that. Don't get me wrong, I love a good grand gesture.
Oh, of course.
But if someone takes the time to find a quote that speaks to our story, that's different. It's like they see me,
100%. It goes beyond just a surface level compliment. Like you said, it shows you get him. Like that Elizabeth Barrett Browning line. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways.
Oh, classic.
It's not just romantic. It makes you think.
Yeah.
Both people. The one saying it and the one hearing it.
It sparks something deeper.
Yeah.
But what I love about this deep dive is it's not just about feeling things. This source is all about action. It actually tells us how to use these quotes in real life.
Absolutely. It's more than just like hacking a quote onto a text message.
Yeah.
Like imagine finding a note on your pillow, handwritten,
Ooh.
with a Maya Angelou quote. Something like, in all the world, there is no heart for me like yours.
See, now that's romantic.
Right.
And it lasts. It's not just a fleeting thing. But you know what? They take it even a step further. They talk about decorating your living space with love quotes.
Interesting.
Which I have to admit, I'm kind of curious about.
Yeah, tell me more. How does that work?
Well, they frame it as being intentional about the atmosphere you're creating. So
Okay.
you walk into like your living room
Yeah.
and you're surrounded by these little reminders of love, of connection. It's like curating a whole vibe, right? And speaking of curation, this source is on it. They break down love quotes into like categories for every occasion, which is super helpful, honestly.
Yeah, because let's be real. Not everyone's Shakespeare, ready with a sonnet and a moment's notice.
Oh.
So like when you do want to go big, like for an anniversary or a special occasion, they say, bring on the classics.
Mhm.
Shakespeare is always a good idea.
Can't go wrong with a little Romeo and Juliet, right?
Right.
But what about those times when it's not, a balcony serenade situation, but you still want to say, I love you?
Right.
Like, really mean it?
This is where they get into those classic movie lines.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you complete me from Jerry Maguire. It's cheesy, but
It works.
it works because it taps into something, right?
Mm.
That like deep desire for connection.
Totally. Although sometimes you need something a little more low-key for everyday life.
Right, right.
Just those little reminders that you care.
Absolutely. And they've got a whole section on short and sweet quotes
Perfect.
because it's really about those small, consistent gestures,
Mhm.
like even a little Post-it note that just says, thinking of you. Those little things go a long way.
Oh, 100%. It's like you're, I don't know, speaking I love you in Morse code throughout the day.
Exactly, exactly.
But you know what else goes a long way in a relationship?
What's that?
Laughter. And this source, they get it. They have a whole section on funny love quotes.
Yes. Humor, so important. That Oscar Wilde quote, I love you more than I love being sarcastic, and that's really saying something.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's witty, it's playful,
Mm.
and it's also like, I adore you even when you're driving me crazy.
Exactly. And it's important to be able to laugh together, when things get tough, which they do.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads us to a category that I think resonates with almost everyone, song lyrics.
Oh, absolutely. Music is its own language of love, right?
It is.
And this source really leans into that. They talk about how powerful it can be, like if it's a song that means something to both of you,
Yeah.
or if it's just a lyric that like perfectly captures how you feel.
Music just hits differently.
It does.
It does. But before we wrap up, I want to go back to something we were talking about before, this whole idea of love quotes being cliche. Because this source actually pushes back on that, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And this is where it gets really interesting, I think, because they talk about how, especially in long-term relationships, being consistent with expressing your love, which includes using quotes, it's actually been linked to higher relationship satisfaction.
So it's not about being cheesy, it's about making the effort.
Exactly.
Reminding your partner why they're special day after day.
Yes, yes.
And that kind of brings us to what I think is really beautiful, this idea that a quote can be so personal, even if you don't come up with it yourself.
It's like you found the perfect words when maybe you couldn't have written them yourself.
Right.
And this source really emphasizes that it's all about sincerity. Like it can't just be any random quote.
It has to mean something.
Yeah, it has to resonate with your relationship, your story.
Because in the end, isn't that what makes a love quote special? It's not just the words themselves, it's what they represent for the two of you.
Absolutely. Like you're saying, out of everything anyone's ever written, this is what makes me think of us. It's like you've got this like secret language now.
Yeah.
All this stuff you feel but maybe haven't actually said out loud.
Oh, totally.
And the source even says that sometimes a well-chosen quote can actually be more powerful than like a big grand gesture.
You know what? I totally agree with that because it shows you're really thinking about the other person.
Yeah.
You understand them. You're not just like buying a dozen roses. You get their heart.
Right. Exactly.
That brings us back to those love languages.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, this source is kind of saying that the love quotes we choose, they can actually tell us something about how we connect with other people.
Whoa, that's fascinating.
Right. So like someone who really values words of affirmation, they might be drawn to something poetic, beautifully written.
I can see that.
But someone who's all about acts of service, they might pick a quote about, actions speaking louder than words.
It's like a little window into how you experience love.
Totally. Both for yourself and for your partner. And you know what I think is really cool? As our relationships grow and change, the quotes that speak to us might change too.
That's a really good point. It's not static, is it?
Right. And that feels like the perfect note to end on. So we've gone deep on the power of love quotes. They can unlock deeper connections. They can even tell us about our own love languages.
Way more than just cheesy cliches, it turns out.
Definitely not. They're these little vessels of emotion. They can strengthen our bonds, help us start meaningful conversations.
I love that.
So next time you're looking for that perfect quote, remember, it's not just about the right words. It's about finding the ones that speak to your love story.
Beautifully said.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive.